So finding the beauty in the process is this ongoing journey of communing with our beingness, communing with what's here now, communing with all those things which are speaking to us, whether through whispers, whether through somatic sensation, whether through whether they're coming through the environment, whether they're coming through relationships. It's being present with everything that's happening right now. That's finding the beauty of the process, because the process actually is presence. Like, that's living. Living and presence are kind of inseparable from one another. It's only that presence has so much more weight and meaning attached to it as something that would yield a greater experience. Like, presence yields a greater experience of living. Living is this kind of neutral concept that we're like, oh yeah, I'm living. But when we bring presence to our living, we really start to allow ourselves into the experience in a different way, because presence is permission. We permit ourselves to live the more present we become. That's what I've been finding on my journey. The process of finding the beauty, or the beauty of finding, what did I say? Fuck, man. Finding the beauty in the process. Finding the beauty in the process is an act of becoming more present. And I've seen it in a lot of my artistic pursuits. Like, this is how it works for me. I'm a writer. I make these videos. I would do other work involving, I would do music on the side. That's going to be something in the future. Finding the beauty in those processes is really finding my presence. Finding my presence is learning how to live, right? Presence is learning how to live. It's kind of that simple when you break it down. And presence is just simply being. It's like the non-attachment piece. It's like not being in polarity. It's being neutral. It's going, okay, I receive. Even if there's like a hard expression or hard external stimuli coming towards us, you just go, okay, wow, that's the big thing. That's a big thing. I'm just going to receive this big thing. And if it's, pushing too hard, step away or push it away and just go, no, start needing sovereignty and say, hey, no. No. It takes presence to say no. It takes real presence to say no. We can't say no if we are receding. Maybe receding is its own expression of no, but you know what I mean? Like, to meet something and then say no. In contrast to this kind of like cowering, like, oh, I don't want to say no. That kind of receding. And it can be related to anything. It doesn't necessarily need to be interpersonal. It could be meeting ourselves, like we meet a program which is trying to lead us towards different choices which aren't really in our best interest. We don't want to let back off those. We really want to meet those parts of ourselves. Finding the presence and finding the beauty in that process. Finding our expression of living. That's living, right? Meeting ourselves on a daily basis. Because if we're not meeting ourselves on a daily basis, then what are we doing? What are we doing? It's like continually backing off life, continually backing off ourselves. Go like, no living for me. Nah, no thanks. Not into it. Not into it. Be into it. Be into living. Be into presence. Be into meeting. Be into meeting yourself. Be into meeting whatever it is that presents itself. Yeah, it's going to be challenged sometimes, of course. There is. We're all different levels, different parts of the spectrum of being able to meet. Some people it's going to be really, really hard. There's going to be a lot of trauma, like activations. Totally acknowledge that. But ultimately, at some point, there is a choice no matter where it lies on the scale. Like, no, I'm choosing to meet the thing. I am choosing to meet this thing. Like, I am being present. I will no longer be ruled by my trauma. I'm standing in my power. At some point, that becomes a choice. That's what leads to recovery. We can all do it. It just takes some of us longer than others. And I class myself in the longer than others camp. Much, much longer. You better believe it. But that in itself, that's also its own meeting. Like, to admit that, to be vulnerable in that way, yeah, I've just kind of taken me a long time to do this thing of meeting myself. That's its own expression of meeting. That's acceptance. And it's going, yeah, you know what? It's been difficult. Not been able to do it. Not being able to do it in the way in which I would have liked to have been able to do it. You know what? That's okay. That's okay. It's not a race. Because we are here to be. Beingness is pretty much the antithesis of being in a race. Oh, there it is. Being in a race. I didn't see that one. I didn't see that one coming. That's something to unpack. It's interesting language, because racing is doingness, right? But we don't do a race, even though racing is very doing. So, real-time question, real-time realization, like, how do we be, I guess, in the race that's all around us? The race is still going on. And we are participating in life, right? But it doesn't need to be a race. So how do we be within the race of everyone else? I think that's a better reframe. How do we be in that race? Because there's people out there trying to compete. There's people out there trying to outdo us, outcreate us, be better than us. Like, do you want to be in that race? Or do you want to participate in that race? I don't really. Well, I don't. I want to do the best that I can. I want to challenge myself to become a greater version of myself. But I'm not interested in competition. I'm a non-competitional being. I look to others, and if they're better than me, I see them as teachers, and I see them as co-creators in terms of the influence that they offer to me. That's an expression of co-creation, which is kind of overlooked sometimes. So the quality of our beingness, if we're in a race, what would that look like? What would that feel like? I'm just kind of riffing now. I'm just asking myself this question. It doesn't, for me, right, this doesn't need to look any different than it would do if you were in any other environment or setting. Right? Because this is the obligation piece coming in. We don't need to be in a race. We can acknowledge that a race exists, but we don't need to be in it.